Look, I don't know even where to begin with this absolute train wreck. Okay, so Disney's already throwing people under the bus, specifically Rachel Zegler. Yes, that's right. A company, Disney, blaming Rachel Zegler for this Snow White flop. And honestly, I mean, she deserves a solid chunk of that blame. I mean, Rachel Zegler practically sabotaged this Snow White flop 2 years before it even hit theaters. Okay, but I mean, let's be real. This whole mess isn't just on Rachel Zegler. You see, Disney made a ton of tone deaf decisions and stuff from day one, all in the name of being inclusive and diverse instead of just simply focusing on making a good movie. Okay. Now, Disney didn't cast Rachel Zegler because she was, the perfect person for the role of Snow White. Nah, nah. They cast Rachel Zegler so they could pat themselves on the back and basically brag about how woke they were for casting a Latina as Snow White. Yes, Snow White. They're basically they used Rachel Zegler as a political trophy, basically parading her around like it's some sort of victory and stuff. But at the same time, they had the gall to actually act surprised when people were like, wait, what is this? What is this even supposed to be? It was all a part of the recipe that led to the whole major Snow White flop. Now, Disney's Snow White flop hasn't even been out for a full week, and they're already waving the white flag. Okay. Now, we all saw this coming with this whole Snow White situation where it was going to be a Snow White flop coming for years now. But from the minute we saw the casting, the messaging, the interviews, everyone with common sense knew that this movie was going to be a flop. But man, I don't think anyone realized just how bad it was going to be. Even me. And this isn't just a failure, it's the biggest Snow White flop Disney has ever had with their live action remakes. But no exaggeration, $86 million worldwide opening for a $270 million movie. That right there is insane. Disney is about to eat a loss in hundreds of millions, okay? Ouch. And that's not even the worst part. You see, Disney also got rid of the classic dwarfs, as you all know, the seven dwarfs that are literally in the title of the original story, and replaced them with these whole CGI monstrosities, as well as getting another set of people calling them bandits. Straight up cringe. Like, who even asked for this? Nobody. Absolutely no one. Okay. But on all these, they made all these bizarre changes and then sat there shocked when the backlash started rolling in. I mean, if you ask me, that's pretty much insufferable right there. But according to a new Variety report, insiders are finally coming out and confirming what we've all been saying for years, that Rachel Zegler herself is a walking PR disaster from the jump. And she went out of her way to trash the original Snow White, made it all about politics and turned a beloved classic into a divisive mess. And now the studio's panicking because they know that Rachel Zegler dragged this Snow White flop into the dirt, okay? But get this. Just 3 days after she hit the stage at Disney's D23 to debut the trailer, Rachel Zegler tweeted out a thank you for the 120 million views the teaser got in 24 hours. I remember that. And then in the same thread, she tacked on, and always remember Free Palestine. Now, you can have whatever political opinion that you want, okay? But maybe, I mean, just maybe, don't attach that message to your $270 million family movie. I mean, especially when your co-star Gal Gadot is Israeli, like, really, what are we doing here? You see, that particular post, as you all remember, exploded online. It racked up to like 8.8 million views, more than the original tweet, and insiders at Disney were completely blindsided, okay? Now, you also got executives who were sitting there going, how did we not see this coming? I mean, meanwhile, the producer of the film had to fly out to New York, as you all know, just to try and talk some sense into Rachel Zegler. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. You see, Rachel Zegler stood her ground, stood on her 10 toes, where she wouldn't delete the post. She basically doubled down, okay? The studio couldn't control Rachel Zegler, and now they're paying the price, okay? But here's the part where that really floored me. You see, when Variety mentioned, any kind of death threats and beefed up security, I thought they meant, for Rachel Zegler. Nah, that was actually for Gal Gadot. She was the ones getting threats because of Rachel Zegler and her tone deaf political post. Okay, now Disney had to go ahead and pay extra to protect Gal and her 4 kids, and Rachel Zegler just, I mean, to put it quite simple, didn't care. But one insider said that she had no clue what her post meant for the film, for Gal, or for anyone. I mean, that right there is insane cope. But Rachel Zegler, on the other hand, just didn't stop there. Just a couple of months later, after the 2024 presidential election, as you all remember, she went full meltdown mode on Instagram, yelling, F Trump, I hope Trump supporters never know peace. Yet, I mean, she actually said that. She even posted that, if you voted for him, she didn't want you watching her movie. I mean, to be fair, people everywhere, those who supported him, who didn't support him, were going to watch it anyway. I mean, who tells half their potential audience to stay home before a movie even comes out? That right there is downright embarrassing. That's not bold. That's definitely business suicide right there. But at that point, Disney had enough. You see, they realized Rachel Zegler was basically burning the movie into the ground and flipping the fans off by doing it. So that's when they got involved. The producer tried to go ahead to rein her in, and eventually they brought in a social media guru. Literally, someone, they paid someone to vet every single thing that Rachel Zegler posted. And sure enough, a day after she went nuclear on, Trump supporters, she suddenly put out this weird apology, as y'all remember. It didn't even sound like her at all. I mean, perfect grammar, capital letters that she doesn't usually use, total copy paste energy. Now, we know Disney voted for her, but guess what? I mean, quite frankly, the damage has already been done. But by the time the movie opened, the box office numbers were already circling the drain. But I mean, just to give you just a little bit or some perspective, the Snow White flop made $34 million less than its opening weekend than Joker 2 did in October, and Joker 2 costs way less to make. Now, you can't justify that. You see, Disney spent nearly $300 million on this thing and couldn't even crack $100 million on opening weekend, okay? And that's not just bad. I mean, if you ask me, that's actually catastrophic right there. But yeah, Disney is trying to pin this all on Rachel Zegler now, but let's not forget, Disney hired her. They're the ones who cast her. They knew who Rachel Zegler was. Now, she already had drama back in 2022 with Spielberg's West Side Story. Y'all remember that whole Oscars fiasco, right? Where Rachel Zegler wasn't invited because she was filming Snow White, and instead of just simply handling it privately, I mean, she basically blasted the studio on social media, forced them to publicly cave just to get her to stop whining. I mean, that should have been a giant red flag right there. And that's where she also became even more entitled, okay? And then came D23, the infamous red carpet interview where she said, weird, weird. Richard Zegler straight up said that the original Snow White was outdated, creepy, and that the prince was a stalker, as you all remember. She even said that her version would be a feminist retelling, okay, where she doesn't need saving. That's when it really started, and fans were furious. Okay, now people weren't going to and that weren't people were saying that this is a Snow White. This is just a new character using the name, and they were right. It was a total bait and switch, a tone deaf one, if you ask me. But at the end of the day, Disney tried to go silent. They tried to muzzle, Richard Zegler, but it was too little too late. The audience had already tuned out, and now they're trying to go ahead and pretend like it's all on Rachel Zegler. I mean, don't get me wrong. Rachel Zegler absolutely gets destroyed in this report, but Disney can't wash their hands of this either. You see, they made the call to cast Rachel Zegler. They rewrote the story. They got rid of the dwarfs. They injected this whole movie with so much woke nonsense that it became unrecognizable. You see, they built the cringe machine and then acted shocked when they actually exploded in their faces. Okay. But I mean, honestly, bottom line, even if Rachel Zegler had said nothing, this Snow White flop would have still tanked. The idea was garbage from the start. Disney turned a classic fairy tale into a Frankenstein's monster of identity politics and stuff and half baked CGI. You see, they alienated the core audience and assumed that people would just simply show up out of brand loyalty. Well, the audience didn't show up, and now Disney's stuck holding the bag itself. Okay, so I mean, yeah, this is a perfect storm. A bad idea, a divisive lead in Rachel Zegler, basically terrible marketing, and the most out of touch studio in Hollywood, making every wrong move possible. Now they're left with the Snow White flop, and that's going to lose them hundreds of millions of dollars. And all they could do at this point is just simply scramble to assign blame. I mean, it's definitely pathetic. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button in this video and turn on the bell notification as you subscribe, so that way you're notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.